the season ended today, they would be in the 8, which means they would draw the Heat. Skip, do you still have the Knicks in the conference finals?
Well, again, it's all about the matchups, as I keep saying.
Right.
But this team is absolutely talented enough to get to the conference finals, and I stand by it. And I'm going to point out to you today, just so that we're not prisoners of last night's moment, the New York Knicks now have 28 games remaining, which is 40% of this year's schedule. They've only played 60% in a very brief portion of that with Jeremy Lin. They didn't have Baron Davis. How many times have I said this? It's going to take time. They have all the firepower in place, healthy firepower, although Tyson Chandler's got an issue with his wrist right now. But it needs to gel. It will gel. Melo failed last night. I don't know what happened. He was 2 for 12. Are you kidding me?
Shooters have nights like that. It happens.
This was yet another payback game for Lin's sanity, because the Knicks at Madison Square Garden recently embarrassed the Dallas Mavericks. And Lin had 28 and 14. So once again, in Dallas, they're primed, like you say, over-primed, like unfairly primed to shut down Jeremy Lin and put this team back in its place. And they did, albeit losing the lead, as you say, late. And it was a second unit that got them there. You sort of lived and died by Baron Davis' sword, because he helped get them there, and then he shot them right out of it. Novak took a terrible shot. And they're not there yet, but they will be there.
Well, I think there was a couple mistakes made by Mike D'Antoni last night. I disagree with – first of all, I never thought they could get to the conference finals. I had said they can win a series if they get out of the 7 or 8 spot. I think they can win a series. I don't think they're beating Chicago or Miami. I don't care what happens to the Knicks from this point forward, because they only focus on one end of the floor. And the teams at the top can get 6, 7 stops in a row in the fourth quarter to win games and get them back in games.
You need that in the playoffs.
You have to have it. The game's going to slow down. You have to have it. But here's where I think Mike D'Antoni made a mistake last night in two instances. Jeremy Lin sits for the first 8.5 minutes of the fourth quarter. During that time was the only time in that game that team had any offensive rhythm. And I'm not blaming Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, I know.
And Baron Davis shot 3 for 10. His numbers don't look great. But for whatever reason, that group
it was a catalyst.
Was moving the ball. They were moving the ball, and they were getting stops, and they went from down 14, they go on a 13 or 15-point run. And there's a timeout, and now here's Mike D'Antoni sitting there. Jeremy Lin hasn't reached the status yet where you feel like, I have to get this guy back in the game.
Last night might have been a time where you just say, let me ride it out.
Last night you ride it with Baron. Now here's where he made the mistake, I think, with Carmelo. Either he gets what star players get, which is you go back in the game at the 8-minute mark every night, no matter what you're doing, or by the time you get to the 3-minute mark, did you see his body language when he told him to go back in the game? You think you're getting anything mentally out of Carmelo Anthony at that point? Well, you have to know your players. Mike D'Antoni needs to know his personality. He's done for the night. You're going to hear about it either way, whether you put him in with 3 minutes to go or you don't. Carmelo Anthony is not going to speak to you after the game, and he's going to be upset. So,
well, it was a lost cause.
At that point, you're better. And he comes in, he takes a quick 3, one pass, 25-footer, barely grazes iron. He's not ready mentally to play. Is that an indictment on him? Yeah, it is, because you got to be ready. But you also have to know your players. He wasn't ready to go back in that game. At that point, you came with this group this far. Tonight was the night. Ride it out. And that's what I think Mike D'Antoni should have done. They might have still lost, but when they put those guys back in the game, there was no flow to the offense anymore.
When I look at the Knicks, and I know all the Linsanity, people got all excited, and you got them in the Eastern Conference Final, I still think the Knicks are fraudulent. And part of it was the defense. I see the names, Amari and Melo, and everybody got caught up. Look at the numbers tell you 6 and 12 against teams over 500. The 2 big wins people keep talking about.
What are you talking about, for the whole year?
Yeah, for the whole year. But I'm saying
everything changed.
It's
all different now.
It didn't change. Those are still the pieces, parts of the makeup of this team.
They didn't have a point guard.
Number 2.
Carmelo was the point guard.
The 2 big wins everybody wants to talk about, the Mavericks and Lakers. The Lakers are 6 and 13 on the road. They lost at Madison Square Garden. And the Mavericks are 8 and 10. They haven't beaten anybody. Rick Bucher said here the other day, they have the weakest strength of schedule. They haven't beaten anybody. I haven't seen anything consistently to make me believe the Knicks are making any kind of run. Now, Skip, if you got some magic formula and you're telling me that 28 days from now they're going to be this world beater and everything's going to click together and they're going to play defense and get those stops in the playoffs, I don't see it. They don't have the right coach. I don't see this mix coming together in this short amount of time. I think they're total fraudulent. I understand it's New York. They haven't had anything to cheer about. They haven't won a championship since Willis Reed and 1973 and all that. I don't see it.
Okay, if you can cite Rick Bucher, I can cite Rick Bucher.
Go ahead.
Yesterday, as we were over there with the balls, remember?
Yeah.
I did they're going to make it to the conference final. Rick looked at me and said, I agree.
He did. He
did.
bought it.
I don't see it. I just don't. I don't.
He
see
did
it.
point out, though, that they've had the easiest schedule to date so far in the NBA,
They have.
and suddenly it's going to get a whole
They've
lot
got,
tougher.
I believe a researcher told me the other night that they have the toughest strength
From
of
here
schedule
out.
the rest of the season.
Of course,
Right.
because
Good.
they
I
have-
like it.
You're
I
gonna know,
like it.
You're going to know a lot more about this team
fire
3 or
test
4
it.
weeks from now.
Are they going to
Okay.
beat the Spurs?
Let 'em get on
That's
a roll.
right
But here's what I
tomorrow
don't
night.
understand. I just don't understand the leap of faith where you're going to leapfrog Chicago or
you.
Miami.
It's not real.
I don't know where that comes from.
Yes, you do.
How
Yes,
much
you do.
better can the
Leapfrog Miami.
you said?
no.
I said one or the other.
They're going
It has to be one of those two to get to the final.
Miami and Chicago aren't playing each other in the playoffs, so they have to beat one of those two teams.
What if the Knicks get on a roll and start improving their seed?
I don't see any way that they would be able to beat.
They'd have
By
to
the
get
way,
on quite a
the Knicks
roll.
played some fourth quarter defense last night. Dallas didn't score a point until, what was it, like the 450
Yeah, they were flat
mark?
for a long stretch.
But Skip, you got to win these games. They got to beat somebody. Can they beat a
Skip,
good team on
They
the
just
road?
threw a whole new team
And
on the
Skip,
floor.
They got those stops in the first 9 minutes as soon as he went back to Lynn and Carmelo.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's all over.
The Mavericks scored on every possession.
Yeah, but guess what happened? Dirk turned back into Dirk. And when he does that, you can't stop it.